Hello again, and welcome to another edition of MasterMind Minutes. My name's Gary Occhiogrosso. I am the founder and managing partner of Franchise Growth Solutions. We are the premier franchise development and franchise sales organization in North America. And MasterMind Minutes, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, is a pretty simple concept because I'm a pretty simple guy. We have one question for one guest, and we get one expert answer, and we sort of slingshot off of that, and hopefully we can share some insights. We always tell the audience that we realize that 15 or 20 minutes is a very short amount of time to really delve into the topic. So we'll give you the guest's contact information or how to reach the company at the end, and you can feel free to reach out at your convenience. So today, and I have an affinity here because we're going to be talking about donuts, and most of you know I'm a former Dunkin' Donuts franchisee, so we'll get into that. But my guest is the CEO of Shipley Donuts. It's Flynn Dekker, who joined the company in 2023 to spearhead the brand's national expansion, bringing with him a 30-plus years of experience in leadership and working in the restaurant and retail industry. And it's always good to have somebody on the line with me that has as much experience as me, so I don't have to feel old alone. Prior to Shipley's, Dekker's most recently served as the CEO of Bonchon. Absolutely love the chicken, love the Korean, the chicken wings. He's also been the chief marketer and had roles at Wingstop Restaurants, Rave Restaurant Group, among others. He can tell us some of the others. In addition to expanding the 87-year-old brand's footprint and store count, Flynn is focused on driving same-store sales, as we all are, growing and investing in franchisee success, which is the key to growing a franchise business, by doing things like showing them how to make more money through product innovation and equipment innovation and technology and all that other good stuff. So, Flynn, I'm delighted to have you here. I'm a fan when I'm in Houston. I'm a fan. I'm a customer. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about Shipley, and then we'll get into the question.
Sure. And Gary, thanks for having me. I'll do the boring part first and talk about me, and then we'll get to the sweet part, pun intended, on donuts. So I started in the restaurant business after school, started with Pizza Hut in operations, moved from there into retail with Blockbuster. If you remember that company, they used to exist. They've got one store left, I think, but it was operations, and that's when I made the transition to marketing, and then found my way into the restaurant business again after a few years, and I've been in it ever since. So traditionally in a marketing role, and then when I went to Bonchon after I left Wingstop as chief marketing officer, after we took that company public, I went to Bonchon because I was just a personal fan of the brand, and when they came calling, I was like, I like you guys. So we went there and grew that brand about 420 units across 9 countries before I left. So
Wow.
And then Shipley came calling, and so Shipley is a brand with a great heritage. Started in 1936 by Lawrence Shipley Sr., and it was run by the family all those years up until just about two and a half years ago, when a private equity group came in and purchased majority interest. And so they've been at the helm for the last about 2.5 years as our financial sponsors. And then I came aboard, I guess, at the beginning of May of this year, because it was just such a great brand, such a great heritage. And at the core of it, anything that can last 87 years and continue to thrive and flourish, I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. Anything that's been around for 87 years has probably been there, done that in the truest sense of the word. And if you're still standing, given all the ups and downs of the economy and pandemics and recessions and high rent, low rent, and people eating carbs, not eating carbs, sugar is poison, all this other stuff, and yet you're still out there and you're thriving and you're growing, that's a testimonial in and of itself. So let's talk about the question. And for me, it's always important to share insights that are unique in a sense that they're not necessarily positions that you take on as a as, hey, I'm applying for the job, so to speak, because then they come with other things. So in your particular case, you came on as the CEO, and now you've got this 87-year-old company. You've got franchisees out there. You've got company stores out there, I think. You've got managers. You've got a whole ecosystem of personalities and emotions and everything else. Now, private equity firm comes in, and who's these guys? Okay, now a new CEO comes in. So you're sort of charged with in addition to all the task stuff that a CEO has to deal with, you're tasked with the emotional management of blending all of this together, getting your arms around it, getting people to trust you, trust your judgment, to bring the company forward. You're going to be bringing new ideas. Surely you're hearing, well, that's not the way we've done it for the last, and you know what? There was a time when people drove around in horse and buggies. That doesn't mean it's what we should be doing today. So my question, after I've given you that little preamble, is how does someone step into the CEO seat of a company that's long established with its own culture and now take it and sort of bring it into the 21st century? Not to imply that it's not, but there's a lot of great things about Shipley that are sort of old school that I love, that I think make the brand work. But how do you take that into the future so that you grow the brand?
Yeah, great question. I think it starts with, I respect the past, but I'm focused on the future, right? And so I'm less worried about things that may have become ingrained over the last 10 or 20 years or passed down from the parents to the children who are running some of these businesses now. And if it works for them locally, great. But I'm focused on what is the shop of the now and what's the shop of the future? How do we make sure we lock in the best practices for all the locations we're opening now? But then how do we look towards the future at the same time, right? An 87-year-old brand only continues to be a successful brand if they pivot, and hopefully pivot at the right time. So I'm focused on how do I increase the ease of access for the consumer and the ease of operation for the franchisee. As you know, coming from Dunkin' and the era that you shared with me that you came from Dunkin', the donut business is a pretty antiquated business. It is very manual. And I remember the old Dunkin' commercials, time to make the donuts.
Oh,
right?
That was an understatement, brother, a total understatement.
Well, guess what? We're still in that era, and that's what makes us special. So
absolutely.
One thing that didn't change for us was the fact that somebody's at that shop at 3 a.m. They're making the dough fresh. They're then they're doing the manual labor of making almost 60 varieties of donuts and kolaches, which I'll explain that to the audience for those that aren't in the the South
first
here.
time I ever had one in Houston, never knew what it was.
Is that right? Well, it's from our Czech settlers that came to Texas, brought these delicious pastries with them. Many are sweet, ours are savory, so it's using our proprietary dough mix, and then it's usually got a sausage in it or ham and cheese. And we'll even throw some sliced jalapeno in there if you like it spicy. But that's a big part of our business. But how do you harness that, right? That differentiates us as we go north. We have to explain to people what that is. But we also, I think the beautiful thing about this brand, while it's very manual and we've got to find more efficiencies, we've stayed true to this handmade product while others have gone in different directions. Some have focused more on coffee, some focus on one particular thing. We focus on this quality and variety, and I think that's a great space for us to own, but we have to be thoughtful about how do we move it towards a more modern production strategy and start to think about how does automation play a part in that. So that's kind of where we're focused right now.
So, and I mean, there's so much there to unpack, and again, no names named, but with the institutionalization of donuts, we'll just leave it at that. Okay. What I've seen happen in the last, I'm going to say 10 years, and maybe it's a little bit less. I remember when my daughter moved to Denver, I guess that was 2014. She took me to a place called Voodoo Donuts. And I was completely blown away, not only by the quality and the size of the product, but also the price, okay? Because in 1985, we were struggling to get 49 cents for a donut, and these guys were getting like $3. All right, it's 40 years later. My point is that the commercialization of the product, meaning sort of the old school, I don't know, there was something about a September or an October morning with the chill in the air, walking into my local donut shop, the smell of the coffee, the donuts, there was something about that that was all taken away when I move in or when I walk in, and it's nothing against digital menu boards, digital menu board, and the majority of items on the menu are either coffee or pre-made some kind of breakfast sandwich stuff, and that whole feeling is not there anymore. So that to me allowed, not that they may not have done it or would have done it anyway, companies like Glazed and Confused and Voodoo Donuts to come up with this sort of gourmet niche that they've stuck in there, and they're pushing the idea, rightfully so, that they're handmade, they're fresh. And I think that where Shipley can kind of be in there is that you've never not done those things. You've always done those things. So when you talk about sort of modernizing it, are those really, like, how do you see balancing the business model for the franchisee and not give up the quality and sort of the culture and the environment for the guest? That's got to be a tough thing.
Indeed. Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? That experience when you walk in. I mean, if you have kids, people bring their kids, and now we've been around so long, now the kids are the adults and they're bringing the kids, and they want that experience. And again, we fill this beautiful space in the middle, right? Where, yes, we have coffee. Yes, we have some of these other things that other folks have focused on, but we focus on, when you walk in that door, that experience, right? And seeing 60 varieties of donuts and getting to choose sort of by color or by flavor or by filling. So how do we take that experience, and how do we add technology in an intelligent way to that? And then, not to reveal all of our secrets, but one of the things that I really want my team to focus on, and I think we're in the right time frame, right? Somebody could have said, oh, we're going to automate and we're going to do all this stuff 10 years ago, but the technology really wasn't there.
Yeah.
But now, if you think about it, what I want a customer to, as they walk into the geofenced area around our location, I want us to acknowledge that here comes Gary, right? And when Gary walks in, I want not only for you to see this beautiful rack of donuts, but I want to simplify the ordering process. And can we use artificial intelligence to recreate on a screen the exact picture of that donut rack, and you just touch what you want and it gets loaded into your box, right? So I'm just making it easier for you to transact. And it may say, Gary, do you want your usual? We'll pack that up right away. You just hit this button. Or do you want to try something new today? And harness that beauty, that experience of that screen. And can I do that on the drive-through as well? And from an automation standpoint, you used an important word, which is emotion, right? And it's very tough to come in and say, hey, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, because it becomes an emotional discussion. But we're lucky that we've got 12 company locations, and they should be our guinea pigs. We should test everything so that we are data-driven and we're having a fact-based discussion. So it's not, hey, do this because I'm the smart new guy. I'm not. I'm just new. But do this because I say so. No, do this because this is going to increase your sales. It's going to improve your quality of life, or it's going to lower your labor costs, or decrease your waste. So how do we interconnect the entire system so that we always know what's on the rack? We're producing fresh all day long, to the right par level, so we know what customers want and when they want it. And then how do we really focus on new day parts? I mean, this kolache, it's a delicious invention that is great for snack, for lunch, certainly for breakfast, but we can start to do that all day long. And almost half of our sales now come from kolaches. So now we have the ability to go, as we go further north, start to educate people about the deliciousness that is the kolache, and start to expand our day parts.
Yeah, and all of that makes sense. I guess the question that comes to my mind in kind of slingshots off the original question of, how do you blend this, or how do you take over an existing operation like this? when you come up or your team comes up with some idea, and yes, you've tested it in a company store, and I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. You can't figure things out on the franchisee's nickel. That's not what they're there for. But I would have to imagine, and again, no names named, I would have to imagine that if you're dealing with a franchisee that's been in the system 20 years, okay, pick a number. You mentioned children of franchisees who are now franchisees, and they've been doing something the same way, and it's okay, and it works. And do you get things like, "Hey, great idea, I never thought of that," and or do you get and I'm sure you get a mix, but some people going, I don't know about that. We've always done it this way. So if you do get that, how do you address that? And I guess the term I want to use is win the person over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we can all agree, no matter what we're talking about in the world, change is difficult, right? If you're content with the way things are now, why would I change anything, right? So we've got to be transparent about the why, and then prove what the results are on the back end. A great example is, and this occurred before I got here, but Bonchon, my previous life, did the exact same thing. There was no technology, there was no point of sale, there was no third party, there was no online ordering. And I think you know better than probably me how important that is to the product mix and sales mix today.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So just by putting in a point of sale system, getting online ordering teed up, getting third party, our average unit volumes have grown by 26% in just the last 2 years.
Tremendous.
So
wow.
That's a great, argument to, hey, we might know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Now, how do we start to push more people through that digital channel, requiring less labor, makes it easier to transact at the front. So it is constantly proving the method to our madness, right? And so we're doing things at our own company stores now where I'm like, let's lower the prices. Let's see what that does. Let's let's keep trying things that we may go, wait a minute, lower prices. What's that going to do? I'm going to take a hit on my P&L. But we have smart investors, and we've got a really smart team of people, and we've got passionate franchisees. So if I can prove that you're going to get more sales by rationalizing your prices, not passing as much on to the consumer, risky at first, but can we prove that business case to help us better position ourselves as we go forward, and as the world continues to evolve and change post pandemic, how people want the product, what they're willing to pay for it. So we're really focused on, again, simplifying the operation for the franchisee so that they've got a better quality of life, right? Maybe we can shave 30 minutes off their day, right? Can we have something in the process, in automation in the back of the house? Why can't the dough be made and waiting for them when they get in the shop? Why can't that be a press of the button instead of I got to come in, I got to add water, I got to get the dough mix, I got to get the yeast out, I've got to temp the water, I've got to temp. I want to make sure that that's perfect every single time. So we should be able to do that through automation. And if we can't, let's fail fast, right? And that's the key. And that's what we're focused on here.
Yeah, and that is certainly the truth. Failing fast, then you can move on. I love the automation idea of the dough, because when you said that, what came to my mind is, not that I would do it. I grew up my family's business was Italian pastries. So we would have never used a bread machine. But when you said that, I kind of thought about, yeah, they got these machines. You set it all up at night and you hit the timer, and then you get fresh baked bread. Not that you could do that, but you could get the dough.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you could get it proofed, but you could certainly get it, there. You can get it mixed. So
right.
I would think, if I'm a franchisee, okay, and again, you're juggling sort of the technology and the forward thinking operational aspect without giving up this high quality, handmade, old school comfort food, that Shipley is known for. So that's sort of a very tough road to hoe. So I give you a lot of credit for that. But I guess, when as a franchisee, the business model to me has to get better. And why do I say it has to get better? Because consumers are changing. So I might find that the bulk of my customers today are under 40 or under 30. And what does that mean? That means, yeah, they still want that great product, but that means they want to order on their phone, or they want to, and they want to come in and maybe pick it up. Or as you mentioned, they want to order at a kiosk, but still have the experience of customization and picking their dozen donuts. So I think from a franchisee's point of view, it would be, met with open arms, so to speak, especially if we get back to your point. And I'd like to know a little bit more about sort of how you benchmark things. You said you want those decisions to be data driven. So you test these out in company stores, you come up with the data. Tell me, how long is the test? What kind of information do you feel you need to provide to a franchisee to feel good about yourself, to say, hey, you know what, we're not monkeying around with your money. We've tested it. Here's how long we tested it. Here's the results. What does that process look like?
Yeah, I think it depends on the initiative, but a good example is we put in a kitchen delivery system to one of our company locations, but we built that location from the ground up. So the data is great, but I'm not convinced, right? It's like, well, it works great. Team members love it. We get more throughput with cars. Okay, great. But we don't have a before, right? And every franchisee we go out to and say, hey, we got this great idea, they're going to go, okay, well, how much did it improve? So I said, let's go build this at great expense on a location that doesn't have any drive-through, or just had basically a window that people would drive up to and go through the same manual process. I want one of those. I want one of those. Now let's build it in. And we're seeing a huge increase in throughput, but now we've got the pre to measure against the post to make a very compelling argument for, yeah, it's an investment, but you're going to pay yourself back in X period of time, right? And at the end of the day, that's all they want to know, right?
Yeah.
They're willing to invest money into this brand, but they have to know what that return on investment is. So we need to make sure that we're bulletproof and that we don't go out there and recommend something that we can't prove moves the needle and makes them more money or simplifies their life at the same time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the also sort of the commitment statement that is inherent in what you said, or built into what you said and what you do, is that you are demonstrating to the franchisee, hey, look, we invested our time and our money first. We got a bloody nose. We figured it out before we ever thought about coming to you, Mr. Franchisee, to use this. So I think that's a big part of managing franchisees. Do you have, this is sort of unrelated but related, because I think it kind of ties in with what you as a new CEO have to do to sort of gather all of your franchisees together and make sure everything's going on. Does Shipley have like a franchise advisory council?
We don't officially have one, but what I am lucky to have is that I have the Shipley family, and the Shipley family still owns their own location. So
Okay.
the Shipley sisters, Sharon and Cheryl, have, and their husbands each own 2 locations. So almost from day one, they have been nothing but kind and welcoming to me. And I brought them in and made them my unofficial franchise advisory council, because I thought, who's going to know the brand better? One, they know the long tail of the history here. They also they're somewhat skeptical of change in a good way, which is, hey, this works really well. You better be sure before you change it. So bringing them in as early in the process as possible has proven to be invaluable to me in my early months here.
Yeah, I know. I think that's brilliant, because if you're going to get pushback from anyone, you're going to get it from family members who are emotionally tied to the brand, who are probably looking at everything with a raised eyebrow to begin with. So to have partners in that respect who aren't going to yes you to death and really push back on you, give you the opportunity to really pick it apart. Now, I think that's brilliant. So just again, for our audience, we're talking with Flynn Dekker, who is the new CEO of Shipley Donuts, and we're talking about taking over an 87-year-old operation, an 87-year-old company with a long history of family and emotion and great high quality product, and sort of moving it forward. Talk to me about the future, about the vision, franchising, number of units? What are sort of the short-term, long-term goals for the brand for you?
Yeah, I feel like, coming from franchising, when the parent company is out of alignment with the goals of the franchise community and they're just pushing stuff in, we have the technology base now. We have the data to back up the decisions that we make. We need to be fully aligned with our franchise partners now. A lot of the heavy lifting here is done. Now it's how do we use this information and to make sure that the investment is smaller and the return on investment is higher. And that's what we're laser focused on. So one of the first projects I have the team working on is the Shop of the Now, which is, hey, before we get too far over our skis and start looking to the future, I want to know exactly what it costs for everything within those four walls. I want to know exactly what the product should be, exactly what our specifications are, so that we're all clear, both us and the franchisees, about this is the expectation for quality. And then we're going to go out and measure against that to make sure everybody understands sort of this is the gold standard and this is what we need to reach. That's job one. Job two is, okay, now how do I do more automation? How do I get more people in, make it easier for them to order, make it easier to have product fresh all day long until the moment we close? And then the really big unlock, and I'm telling too many secrets here, if I can solve this one, we own the donut world, which is what do we do at the end of the day with that product, right? Right now, it's waste for every, well, hopefully it's waste for every good donut company that they're throwing that away at the end of the day, right? Unless they're selling day old donuts the next day, old school, but we don't do that. But how do we get to the end of the day and have zero waste? That's a real unlock that we're digging into, which is how do we create a down the line product to use all of that product at the end of the day in another product that customers would like and gives us this extension, because it's a fresh product still. I mean, if we're making it all day long, it's a fresh product. Can we turn it into something else that the consumers will like? And so that's the next unlock for us.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to just say a couple. First of all, I give away trade secrets all the time, and sometimes even my competitors will say, "Well, why do you give away the secret sauce?" And my response is simple: because my competitors aren't going to do it anyway. Okay, they're just not going to do it. All right, it's too much work. All right,
right.
But I think something you said there, and I have this expression like when I'm attending the Springboard conference in Philly next week, which I do every year, and I'm one of the panelists. So one of the things I talk about is people always talk about knowledge is power. Okay. Knowledge in my book, and it kind of ties in with what you just said, is not power. Okay. The execution of knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So what you said was we have to like figure it all out, and then we got to do it.
Yeah.
That, to me, is key. And I think as a company, if with a forward facing and a vision of expanding the brand and figuring these things out, if you're constantly demonstrating that you're, I think Jim Collins in Good to Great says you discuss, decide, execute, autopsy. So you're kind of talking about it, figuring it out, testing it. If you figure out whether it works, and then you do it, and then you just keep doing that over and over again. I think that is the most solid demonstration to a franchise community that the franchisor is doing what it should be doing to earn its royalties. Because what that demonstrates is you're looking for new ways to help your franchisees make more money and put out a better product. And it's a flywheel, man. Do it faster, better, less cost, and not compromise the quality of the product. Okay, enough of my preaching here. So last thoughts you want to give us on this topic of sort of, again, jumping in the seat of a moving 747, and now you got to fly it.
Yeah, no, I think, look, we start with a great product, right? And if we provide good service and a clean environment, there's a reason there's a donut shop on every corner in the country, right? And every city. So there is nothing but white space. All we have to do, old operator that I worked with used to always say, it's real simple: hot food hot, cold food cold, right? Obviously, it's a little more complex than that, but we just have to set, here's what the standard is, and now make sure we uphold that so that every guest experience, they get this great product that I know we have, and we do it in a friendly fashion, and then we do it as efficiently as possible. So I think the sky's the limit, and the reason I came here, because I loved my other company, but the reason I came here is because whether the economy goes up or down, right? And there's great debate about where we're going, what it's going to be. A dollar donut still sells, right? Most Americans can still go in and have something that makes them happy and hopefully brightens their day a little bit. And that's what our goal is at the end of the day, which is not just to sell a widget, but to do something that hopefully, makes people happy and, gives them a little bit better launch to their day or their afternoon or whenever they want to come see us.
Well, and I think that's the unique point of differentiation for Shipley, that the fact is that you're still embracing the experience of the brand and what it represents. So if someone wants to reach out and learn more about the brand or find out about the franchise opportunity, what's the website? How do they reach you? And again, we'll embed this sort of in the video cast as well as in the podcast.
Great. No, thanks for asking. Well, own a Shipley, singular, ownashipley.com is where you can go if you're interested in learning more about the business and maybe want to franchise. We just opened up 5 states in the Midwest, so we're moving further north. We're doing so thoughtfully, right? We're not opening up the whole country. We want to move in a measured way, but we've opened up Colorado, Maryland recently. We just opened up Orlando, Florida. So we kind of live in this Southwest corridor, but we have new states that we just opened up in the Midwest. But you go to ownashipley.com, and if you just want to go look at some beautiful donuts and maybe place an order if you're in the market, shipleydonuts.com is your ticket to that.
That's great. That's great. Well, we've been speaking with Flynn Dekker, the CEO of Shipley Donuts, and I can't thank you enough. I could talk to you all day, by the way.
I love the donut talk. I love it.
Yeah, no, I love the donut talk, and I'm sure we both have war stories that we could trade, but no, this has been an absolute pleasure. What we need to do is have you back maybe like in a year and see, okay, well, so where's the brand gone? I would love nothing more than to sort of walk down a street in New York City or up here in northern New Jersey where I live and see a Shipley and be able to walk in and, like I said, on a chilly autumn morning, walking into a donut shop, there's just nothing like it. If you've never experienced that, I would recommend, go to Shipley because you could still experience that. But again, thank you so much for your time.
Gary, thank you. Enjoyed the conversation.